Present.
Commissioner Amen? Commissioner Madaffer?
Here.
Commissioner Cavaloni? Mayor Gilmetti?
Present. Okay, thank you for attending. We'll start off with the overview of the STIP development. Laurel?
Yes, Commissioners. Today is the second of the two hearings on the 2014 State Transportation Improvement Program. The STIP is a 5-year program of capital improvements adopted biennially in even-numbered years. State law requires the Commission to hold at least 2 hearings, one in the north and one in the south, before adopting each new STIP. The purpose of the hearings is to reconcile any objections by any county or regional agency to the Caltrans program or Caltrans objections to any regional program. The hearings also provide an opportunity for each regional agency and Caltrans to explain its proposals, how the proposals fit within the adopted RTPs and sustainable community strategies, and how the interregional proposal is consistent with the RTPs, and why the Commission should include these proposals in the STIP. Each Commissioner should have a copy of the hearing briefing book prepared by staff. This is not a staff recommendation of any kind. It is simply staff's compilation of the RTIPs and the ITIP presented in a single format. We know that a compilation of this magnitude, prepared in a relatively short time, is bound to include some errors or misinterpretations. This work remains subject to updating and correction before we prepare the STIP staff recommendations, and we invite anyone concerned to bring us changes or corrections. Under law, the Commission may include a project in the STIP only if it has been nominated by a regional agency in its RTIP or by Caltrans in its ITIP. The STIP is constrained by the levels of funding identified in the fund estimate adopted by the Commission, $1.262 billion. The 2014 STIP fund estimate was adopted by the Commission last August with a correction in October. The fund estimate starts with revenue assumptions and the assumption that nearly $4 billion in projects from the last STIP will be carried forward to arrive at the capacity to add new projects to the STIP. At the front of the hearing book is a summary that compares the RTIPs and the ITIP proposals against the program capacity levels identified in the fund estimate. We no longer break down the capacity by fund type since T has been eliminated and PTA is so small that it effectively no longer exists. However, we do still show rail and transit and bicycle and pedestrian projects separately. The programming challenge in the 2014 STIP is the elimination of the federal T program and the need to delete reserves and projects that are not eligible for SHA or federal non-T funds. Most projects, bicycle and pedestrian projects, do remain eligible for STIP funding. If we're not sure of the eligibility, we're requesting copies of the PSRs for further evaluation. Some proposed projects include elements that are not eligible and would need to either change their scope or include local funds to cover those elements. Again, the fund estimate identified $1.262 billion in total capacity. Against this capacity, we have received $1.34 billion in RTIP and ITIP proposals. The fund estimate shows that the STIP is already overprogrammed in the first 3 years by about $83 million, with new capacity available only in the last 2 years. Requests for programming, however, total about $194.5 million for the first 3 years. The result, it would be the first 3 years of the STIP period, $277 million overprogrammed. The RTIPs for 35 counties and the ITIP are at or below capacity. The remaining RTIPs are $181 million over target. There are 3 significant programming challenges in the 2014 STIP. First is that the total exceeds capacity. Second is the amount proposed in the first 3 years. Most new projects will need to be programmed in the last 2 years of the STIP, where there is capacity. And then confirmation of the eligibility of any remaining bike ped projects, most of which should still be eligible. After the STIP hearings, staff will begin preparing a comprehensive recommendation for adoption of the 2014 STIP. The STIP adoption is scheduled for March 20th. As required by law, we will publish staff recommendations no later than February 28th, 20 days in advance of the STIP adoption. Staff's recommendations will be based on the proposals in the RTIPs and the ITIP, the capacity identified by the fund estimate, the policies in the STIP guidelines, and any further information or guidance that we may receive during and following these hearings. We will continue working with Caltrans and the regions to address any questions or unresolved issues as we develop our staff recommendations and to make sure that we understand regional and interregional priorities and to make sure no one is surprised by what we recommend. After this introduction, we will move into the interregional and regional presentations. Caltrans will make a presentation of its ITIP, and each regional agency will have the opportunity to make a presentation regarding its RTIP and to comment on the ITIP. Before Caltrans and each of the regions testify, staff will give a brief overview of the issues specific to that proposal. Members of the public wishing to comment should fill out a speaker's card and can comment at the end of the hearing. And if there are no questions, I can begin by giving a brief overview of the ITIP.
Any questions of Laurel? Okay.
Okay. Caltrans is proposing to program over $301 million, just under their target. They are proposing to leave some shares unprogrammed in order to cover some anticipated cost increases on projects that are coming forward for allocation in June. For highway projects, they're proposing 2 delays, but neither one of which is into the 2 new years. They're proposing to add funds to 2 existing projects, the 101 HOV Lane project in Santa Barbara and the Route 395 Olancha-Cartago project, which is shared with Inyo, Kern, and Mono. 11 new highway projects are proposed, and 2 existing Route 99 projects are proposed to be split into 2 segments with some substantial program for construction. The ITIP also includes 4 highway projects that are second priority for the 2014 STIP, but are first priority for 2016. These projects are in Merced, Tulare, and Madera counties. In addition, Caltrans is proposing to delay 1, delete 1, and program several new rail projects for a total of $46.7 million in new programming. The ITIP also includes a list of rail projects that are second priority for the 2014 STIP, but would be first for 2016. And these are projects in San Diego on the Los San Corridor. With the elimination of the Federal Transportation Enhancement Program, Caltrans is proposing to delete or close all T projects not being delivered this year. This includes projects where the department was partnering with local agencies. These projects remain programmed by the regional agencies, and they have confirmed that they do remain fully funded. There have been several regional requests for ITIP funding that are not reflected in the proposed 2014 ITIP. Multiple letters have been received and copies have been provided to you. In addition, agencies have included some requests in their RTIPs, and as we get to those RTIPs, I'll mention those requests.
Rachel?
Sorry, I just have to adjust this mic. Good morning, Commissioners, for the opportunity to speak to you today. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Rachel Falsetti, and I'm here on behalf of the Department to present the 2014 Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, otherwise known as the ITIP. Before moving on, I'd like to take a moment or two just to make a couple observations. Last week, you heard about the Active Transportation Program, which is $135 million per year, and I just wanted you to note, in comparison, the ITIP is $150 million, and the $150 million is meant to take care of the statewide freight in intercity rail and interregional mobility, whereas ATP, which is at 135, is pedestrian and bicycle. So it's just, so we have a heavy lift, is what I was saying. Additionally, you're probably going to hear from some agencies, not probably, you will hear from some agencies indicating that they would wish some additional ITIP. Again, $150 million is a very little amount, and we definitely have a huge need. Next slide. So just for background, and this one's quick, like we said last week, the STIP is broken down into 75% RTIP, which goes directly to the regions. The typical projects are listed up there on the slide. Next slide. The ITIP. The ITIP has 25% of the STIP funding, and it's used for movement of people, goods, and vehicles between urbanized areas. That includes intercity rail and highway projects. I wanted to point out the public participation related to the ITIP. All the ITIP projects are referred to in the regional transportation plans, so the public participation for the ITIP is really through the regional transportation plan. And then once these projects are put in, they actually go through the federal process, and there's public participation at the federal level, both in the federal TIP and the federal statewide transportation improvement program. Next slide. I'm going through some of these a little quicker than last week because I think you've seen them before. So how the ITIP projects are selected. The projects are actually selected from the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan. The Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan is a plan the department has been directed by Commission guidance to put together. And it basically lays the foundation with performance objectives for what the Interregional Transportation Improvement Program projects should be. They actually go through the ITSP, and then we work with the regions to develop PIDs for the selected projects. Once we develop the PIDs, which is the initiation document, project initiation document, we go forward and work with the regions to come up with selected ITIP projects. Most of the ITIP projects that we have are projects that are partnered with the various regions, along with, of course, intercity rail projects, which tend not to have partnering with the regions. The next slide. So the program objectives are on this slide. They're to implement the intercity passenger rail, ensure a dependable level of service for movement of interstate goods and services between urban centers, complete the trunk system. We have a lot of, not a lot, but we still have some 2-lane highways in the state, and we are looking to make those more into a 4-way highway, so a safer system for you to drive on or for trucks to drive on. Some of them stay that way, but the ones where we have a larger amount of interregional movement, we are looking to upgrade those to the higher standards for state highways. In addition, from those performance objectives, next slide, we actually this time put together program performance indicators, which was part of what the current STIP guidelines had requested. So the performance indicators were based on the program objectives, and then all the individual projects were evaluated against that. Our performance indicators, we didn't hand out copies of the ITIP. However, they actually are on page 19. There are things like if the project is focusing the investment on the state interregional road system, partnering, connecting of urbanizing centers, congestion reduction versus enhanced interregional movement. There's particular indicators, and if you look on there, there's all the questions that we looked at to then figure out a rating for the various projects. Next slide. So the ITIP proposal is consistent with the fund estimate that was passed last August. We, for the fund estimate, got $309 million of new funds, which basically are in 2017-18 and 18-19. In most of the cases, we're partnering with other agencies on the funding of projects where both share the same mobility objectives, we and the regions do. In the ITIP, the department has proposed $47 million to the intercity rail program for projects that enhance capacity for 3 rail corridors, and to projects that complement the state's planned integrated high-speed rail system. The ITIP also provides funding to several projects on critical rural freight corridors and our national primary freight network, as defined under Map 21. These routes are used to sustain California's $45 billion agricultural industry and move billions of other goods between states' urbanized areas and destinations outside the state. And one of the things to note there is Laurel indicated there's new projects. The new projects are really on corridors that we have been working on. So you'll see new projects on Highway 99, but it's continuing to complete the vision the department has had for a while on Highway 99 or Highway 46. Finally, the passage of Map 21 eliminated the T program and effectively removed that funding from the STIP. And in light of the loss of that funding, the department recommends deleting all the ITIP-T programmed within the 2014 STIP period and returning those shares to the ITIP. However, while the funds were lost to the ITIP, they aren't gone. They've been moved to the new ATP, or Active Transportation Programs, so that the project can effectively still compete for those funds. Next slide. So this is a couple of the projects down in this area that I wanted to highlight that are in the interregional program. The first one is the Burbank Airport Intermodal Pedestrian Grade Separation, and the second one is San Bernardino 15. Next slide. So Burbank Airport, the purpose of this project is to provide a pedestrian bridge that connects the Burbank Airport Regional Intermodal Transportation Center, they call it RITC. There's probably a way to say that, but Richter, I don't know, to the Metrolink station. With a ridership of 47,000 last year, the station ranks in the top third of all Amtrak stations nationwide. This project is an element of the larger regional intermodal transportation center that will accommodate local transit service, regional transit vehicles, and bicycle storage. The pedestrian walkway is an important step in the implementation of Metro's regional airport connectivity plan supporting plane-to-train service. So our proposal has $7 million worth of ITIP to assist with that project. Next slide. San Bernardino 15 is a widening of the freeway to standards, and it's phase 2. There was a phase 1 that was done. It is a heavily trafficked from a truck perspective. The purpose of the project is to widen the freeway to accommodate demand that's already in place. Travel demand outstripped capacity on the pre-existing 4-lane facility, which created recurrent congestion and delays, impeding efficient interregional movement of goods and services while contributing to production of greenhouse gases. The purpose of the full project is to meet demand for travel choice in the area. The project was implemented with 2 phases. Phase 1 added a single lane in each direction. But due to cost constraints, several narrow overcrossings were left in place. The outcome of this funding in the ITIP will actually put this all at freeway standards and make it a safer facility, basically. So looking ahead, next slide. The greater issue funding to the STIP is, the greater issue really for the overall is funding to the STIP is inadequate to meet the identified mobility needs. And the ITIP, with 1/4 of that funding, is unable to carry out the ITSP objectives in a timely manner. In March of 2013, the commission suggested that we go back and look at the ITSP and it be updated in conjunction with the long-range 2040 California Transportation Plan. And Caltrans agreed with this approach. And so what you will see in the future is a revised ITIP based on what the revised Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan is, where we will be engaging with our stakeholders to come up with this revised vision. So I can't tell you exactly what the new ITIP is going to look like until we go through this upcoming process. The one thing I did want to leave you with on that, though, is when we looked a number of years ago, we had about a $10 billion need to complete what we had in the ITSP. And again, we have $150 million a year. And so you'll likely be hearing from regions who all have a desire to have some of this $150 million. And obviously we had to make some difficult choices in this ITIP, and you'll probably hear that people don't like our difficult choices, but again, we have very insufficient funding for the need. So next slide. And the full text of the ITIP is actually available online if you want to read the full text. With that, I'll ask if there are any questions.
Any questions of Rachel? Commissioner Inman?
Rachel, thank you. I hope we're all hearing that goods movement is probably one of our biggest challenges as we try to figure out how to move the goods to our businesses and our individuals, and a huge challenge with our needs far, far exceeding. So, Rachel, I heard you loud and clear, and I just want to make sure everybody else does. We have a humongous task in front of us, I think, to really figure out in terms of the economic impact as well. We're fooling ourselves if we think we aren't holding ourselves back by not having good corridors for mobility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Rachel? Commissioner Medaffer?
I just wanted to make a comment and just, I think everybody shares this, but it's just very depressing to hear your report.
It's depressing to give it, so.
Any other questions? Okay, Laurel, back to you.
Yes, thank you. We'll have our RTIP presentations now, and first is Los Angeles. Los Angeles is proposing to program less than their target. However, they are proposing to program $100 million in 2014-15, where there is no capacity due to a substantial cost increase. The county is proposing to delete T projects, freeing up some of the capacity needed for that increase. There is an issue with some of the current year programming. However, it's inconsistent to delete current year programming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm going to get the PowerPoint going here, and we're expecting our Deputy CEO any second. I'm wondering if we should go to the next testifier to give him a few minutes. Do you guys have a PowerPoint? Okay. Yeah, let's let Orange County go first, if you wouldn't mind. And
We can have Orange County come up. Orange County, I'll give a brief overview really quick. They're proposing to program more than their target, which would mean some other county would need to program less. They are proposing 4 new highway projects and 1 new rail transit. All of this increased programming is in the last 2 years of the STIP.
Daryl?
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On time, on schedule, on budget, and we'll take 10% off LA's RTIP just for going ahead of time. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman and members, to be here. You should have a handout coming around that just tries to show you our program on the front and the back, so you have it there. You know, as a multimodal transportation authority, we pride ourselves in creating both an integrated and a balanced transportation system that supports not only the travel needs of our county, but also the diverse workforce, the visitors, and the residents. And we do that through a variety of sources. Some of that's our local sales tax program. Some of that is federal transit funds. Some of that is state transit funds. And also, of course, the projects that we're talking about today. We're also very proud of our ability to deliver projects on time, on schedule, and on budget. It's something that we take very seriously. And we've made a continual commitment to deliver projects that we promise to the voters and to you. For a quick example, in 2011, we wrapped up our first sales tax measure. It was a 20-year half-cent sales tax program. We had about $4 million in local sales tax program dollars, but we put $1.2 billion in state and federal investments along with that to really have about a $5.5 billion program. And I think that shows the efforts underway to make sure that everything is balanced and works together. During that 20-year period, we added 192 freeway lane miles. We improved 170 local intersections, 38 freeway interchanges, and it was the starting dollars to implement Metrolink commuter rail service in Orange County. Also recently, in cooperation with you as the Transportation Commission, as well as the Department of Transportation, we have implemented over $800 million in Proposition 1B funding for more than 100 local projects, including what we call the OC Bridges program, which is 7 grade separations on the BNSF corridor. And I'm pleased to announce that 2 of those will be open to traffic later this summer, and we're on schedule to open all of them by the deadlines contained in Proposition 1B. It's been a very focused effort of our agency and of our board of directors, and we thank you for your support in that. All of these projects will have a lasting impact on the residents and visitors and workforce of Orange County. But that's behind us. So what are we doing going forward? We want to talk a little bit about the 2014 STIP. So really we have sort of 4 focuses on our proposal going forward. The first one is that we're going to add additional high occupancy vehicle and mixed flow lanes on the I-5. And the I-5, as you all know, that's what links San Diego, Orange, and Los Angeles counties. More than 50% of the state's population lives in those sort of Southern California area and attaches to the 5. So we've made a lot of our focused efforts on the 5. We're going to be adding additional lanes on the 405 through the Irvine area. And we're going to be adding transit station parking to support our increased rail ridership in the region, which is doing very well along the Los-San corridor. And then key interchanges that involve local access to the State Route 57 freeway. We've also spent some time working with Caltrans and our local agencies to make sure that our RTIP submittal is consistent with the 2014 state highway needs and addresses sustainable community strategies. We know that's important to the Commission. We know that's important to Caltrans, and we wanted to make sure we were thinking about that as we put together our program. In summary, our 2014 STIP, we're proposing a package of $771 million in total investment. Of that, $240 million is STIP funded, and that puts or leverages another $530 million of other funds, mostly local funds, mostly our sales tax funds, into the system. And there's really 4 or 5 things that we're going to do there. The first one, or the outcome of that, it's going to be $516 million of construction. So you have the $770 million, but over $500 million is direct construction. Those lead to direct jobs. And our estimate of that is about 9,300 jobs over the 5-year period. We have a focus on improving safety and significantly reduce what we call congestion-related accidents. That's where you have mainline issues, freeway interchange issues, as well as off-ramp and on-ramp issues. Reducing queued traffic areas, that will lead to improved travel time on the freeway system. I talked about additional transit station parking. The low sand corridor, both Amtrak and Metrolink service in the corridor, is growing every day, every week, every month, and we're going to put some investment or proposing to put investment in additional parking capacity. And then finally, commerce is very important around the state. We pride ourselves being very business friendly in Orange County, and we want to make sure that we have a good system to improve access to jobs, housing, markets, and commerce. And then at the same time, reducing emissions. So we think that this program proposed to you today has quantifiable emission reductions. Your approval of our RTIP will allow us to deliver the projects and pursue those goals that we've outlined. And we think that our proposed projects are consistent with the current schedules. And one thing I think is really important for the Commission is we emphasize project readiness. That's something that is a very strong policy at the OCT Board of Directors. We would not give you a project that is not ready for implementation. That's a key criteria for us, is that when we commit to a schedule, we want to stick to that schedule. So in conclusion, we'll hope that the Commission, as well as your staff, will agree with our conclusions and approve the RTIP as submitted. And also wanted to thank the Commission and their staff, particularly your staff, for the time they put into helping us put together a program that meets your needs, meets our needs, and follows the statute. So ultimately, the goal of improving our system is really to look at commerce, look at better transportation for our workforce and visitors, as well as improving air quality in our region. So with that, we'll be happy to take any questions, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Orange County next month.
Any questions? Commissioner Inman?
Thank you, Daryl. A question, last week at our hearing in Sacramento, my question went to, often we're asked to close gaps. So on your recommendations here, how many of these would be closing gaps, or worst case scenario I think would be creating a new gap? So can you maybe give us a quick summary? The HOV lanes on I-5 down in San Clemente, is that an extension, or is that making a new interrupted segment?
It's a great question, Commissioner Inman. So first of all, we're not creating any new gaps. So the I-5 extension of the HOV lanes in San Clemente extends them from where they end today in the San Juan Capistrano area down to the Pico interchange in San Clemente. Through our long-range planning process, just to talk about regional planning for just a moment, we're also looking at an option to extend it all the way to the county line, because we know San Diego, and I know Gary's in the audience someplace here, they're talking about bringing HOV or HOT lanes up to the county line. So we're trying to match what San Diego and Orange County are doing. We have a very extensive HOV network in the county, and we want to make sure we don't have those gaps.
Commissioner Gardino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But Lucy, this is your...
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you for briefing us not only on the good work you've done in the past, but where you plan on placing funds in the future. And I can't help but think that Rachel Falsetti said that she was depressed giving that report as we were depressed hearing it. So what I wanted to ask you about, a Central Valley Assembly member, Henry Perea, came out in the Fresno Bee yesterday or the day before, imploring the governor and legislative leadership to take one-time funds, about $500 million, and invest those in our transportation system. It was co-signed by 9 or 10 of his colleagues, including, I think, from your area, Sharon Quirk-Silva and Tom Daly. Could you share with us at all if you're encouraging your legislative delegation, if not through what they're doing, but encouraging them to more adequately find ways of funding infrastructure?
Yes.
Or did you lead them to do this?
Well, I think always adequately funding infrastructure is very important. The OCTA was supportive of Proposition 1B, and we obviously a local sales tax measure that had more than 70% or approximately 70% of the vote. We do, as a policy, are very concerned about one-time funds for ongoing projects, meaning if there's an operating cost associated with that, we wouldn't want to use one-time funds for that. But at the same time, we would generally be supportive of a one-time investment if there's quantifiable benefits that come from that. We don't want to waste money on anything. We recently had the opportunity for some federal emergency management grants. we didn't feel like we had good programs for those, so we turned them back. And I think there's two ways to think about that. You know, you could spend the money because you have it, or you could make sure that you do it in the right manner. So to the degree that there's an opportunity to make good investments, I think we would generally be supportive of that. I said earlier, we have a high focus on project readiness. We take a lot of pride in making sure projects are ready to go. And if there's opportunities there, we'd like to participate in making investments into the transportation system.
Commissioner Dunn?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm probably going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
It won't be the first time.
I know. So we know Orange County is the toll road capital of the state of California. We have more toll lanes, many of them under OCTA's control, and then, of course, a separate agency with the TCA, Transportation Corridor Agencies. I'd love your perspective on the fact that the SR 55 to the 57 is probably one of the most heavily congested on the planet, right up there. We've got studies showing our HOV lanes highly degraded, and we also have major funding constraints. Why, and I'm just looking at the SR 55, Daryl, are you looking at all at any kind of HOT, any tolling, express lane options on any of these in addition to what you're proposing here as a funding enhancement and a mobility enhancement, particularly in light of what we've seen on the 110? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
You're not. Chair Gometti and commissioners, I think it's an excellent question. We're obviously the owner of the 91 Express Lanes. It's
right.
By all accounts the most successful toll facility anywhere in the U.S. We've recently refinanced. We didn't extend the term. We kept the same term. We lowered our debt significantly. We freed up reserves. It's an incredibly good system. It takes 12 million passenger trips a year and is self-funding, and it generates revenue. We put 18 new lane miles on the 91 corridor, free lane miles, in the last few years, and we have 4 more under construction. So I think we totally understand the value of congestion pricing and the marketplace that drives that. But with that said, we've had some real tough challenges in the last couple of years as we've talked about our Interstate 405 project, which is proposed tolling. And we frankly had a pretty solid split on the OCTA board about what the future of tolling should be in the county. And from a congestion relief standpoint, I think they understand that it has benefit, meaning the board of directors. The public is not fully sold on that. I think the 405 corridor was very complicated in the sense that it comes into the county line area at Los Angeles. It was unclear what Los Angeles County's future plans are for the 405. We know they're studying that, and I don't mean anything negative by that, but it was unclear what their plans were. With that said, we're in the middle of our long-range transportation planning process, which will feed the SCAG RTP, and one of the things that we're examining is what do we do about HOV degradation. And there's a couple of ways to look at it. We appear at this point to be a little more focused on occupancy and operational changes as opposed to pricing, but I don't think that story is fully written yet. I think there's more opportunities to do work in that area. I think the region needs to come together a bit and understand what the role of pricing is and what the role of congestion-based pricing is on the region, in the region, as opposed to the individual projects that are being developed around the 5-county region. So we are not looking at anything on the 55 in the short term.
Daryl, I would just challenge OCTA to look very carefully at this for the leadership role that this county has played in establishing the success of express lanes and toll lanes, and then for not planning them, not educating the public, not moving forward. If we don't add them, we're not teaching the public how beneficial that they are. And so I would just challenge us all. Orange County is highly metropolitan area, and we and I think Contra Costa are the only 2 counties in the state not planning express lanes in order to enable mobility, and I just think it's a big mistake. So that's just again, words to the wise. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but the rest of the choir chorus needs to hear that.
Well, if I just quick response, you are preaching to the choir. I fully believe in congestion pricing, as you well know. We've talked about this many times.
The choir's not in the choir room, I know.
But I think what you said is you challenge us all, and it's
Yes.
not just OCTA, it's all of us to be clear on what our needs are. And I think in the public, I've spent a lot of time trying to talk to the public about this, and they don't believe that we have a congestion issue. They believe that we're looking for money. The two are linked, but we have to really focus on the congestion relief benefits that these types of projects bring. They are all structured differently in California in terms of their finances and their operations. I think that works against us, and we need some common themes, and we need some common areas of focus so we understand how they're priced, how they're financed, how they're managed, and I think that will go a long way in getting us, that collective us, to figure out if this is part of our future, which I think it should be.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Daryl, I have a brief, a quick question and hopefully a brief answer. You mentioned that you're looking at investing more than $770 million, and you said, I think, you were going to spend a little over $500 million in direct construction costs.
That's correct.
Where's the other $200 million going?
The other $200 million is generally in right-of-way acquisition, engineering design, project support, planning, things of that nature.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we back to Los Angeles, David?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Paul Taylor, Deputy CEO here at Metro, and on behalf of our Board Chair Diane Du Bois and our CEO Art Leahy, I'd like to welcome you to Los Angeles and to Metro. We appreciate your coming here to hear us, and we'd like to offer some brief remarks upon proposed projects for the county. Metro is requesting a total of up to $247 million for the 2014 LA County Regional Improvement Program. This amount consists of $178 million for our county share target and up to $69 million in advanced transportation projects in the county if additional funds are available. We also have $37 million in requests for funding from the Interregional Improvement Program for critical interregional needs on the interstate highway and intercity rail systems. The 2014 STIP cycle represents an important opportunity for Los Angeles County. We're committed to using the funds that you grant us in the most cost-effective manner and continuing our endeavor to build a world-class infrastructure for the 21st century. We plan to make several important improvements in the highway and rail systems in the county. We're working together with the state on widening the I-5 freeway between the I-605 and the Orange County line and are in need of additional funding to complete this project. We are also purchasing light rail vehicles for system-wide metro rail expansion and working on an exciting new project to improve access from the MetroLink system, that's our intercity rail system, our commuter rail system, and intercity Losan corridor to the Burbank Bob Hope Airport. We're requesting $111 million from our county shares for the I-5 South project. This project intends to improve mobility by substantially increasing capacity and improving safety in the segment between, as I said, the 605 and the Orange County line. Additional lane capacity is expected to relieve congestion, including freight, and address the bottleneck that occurs at the county line today. The state has made a prior commitment to this project, and we thank the state for being an invaluable partner on this work to date. The $111 million includes $66 million from the 2014 STIP county share and $45 million for the I-5 South Freeway project through a STIP amendment using prior county shares that we'll talk about. Recent cost estimates from District 7 have identified $50 million in additional funding needs, but staff at the district has since identified up to $20 million in cost reduction strategies, leaving a $30 million shortfall remaining. $30 million in interregional improvement program funding would close this gap. This funding is not currently included in the ITIP recommendations. We thank the state for its ongoing role in this complex and vitally important project in the north-south artery of the state, and we wish to work with you to identify the means to fulfill our request. As I mentioned, we are proposing to reprogram $45 million in RIP shares to the I-5 South project. The $45 million would be accessed from 28 transportation enhancement projects, which we will be seeking other funds for, since all the TE apportionments are now fully obligated in the state. We're requesting $102 million from our county shares to purchase new light rail vehicles. For a number of new light rail projects will open in the county in our Metro Rail system in the next few years, including the Expo line extended to Santa Monica, the Gold Line foothill extension to Azusa. Metro will need additional vehicles. This project is essential. This vehicle acquisition project is essential to ensuring that Metro has the rail fleet to operate our new and existing rail lines at full capacity and meet the projected growth in travel demand for rail service in the county. In the event that additional STIP funds can be advanced against our county shares, we're proposing to use the advance for the West Side Subway Segment 2, as shown on this chart from La Cienega to Century City, and or Interstate 110 405 Auxiliary Lane project, which is shown here. This is in the South Bay area in the general vicinity of Carson. Both proposed advances are scalable, so if less than the proposed advance is available, Metro will make up the difference. We're very pleased with the inclusion in the STIP recommendations of $7 million in ITIP funds for the Burbank-Bob Hope Airport pedestrian bridge. This is a map of the Metrolink system in Southern California, and Bob Hope Airport Station is pointed out here, right sort of in the middle of it. As I mentioned, it's also on the Amtrak Lausanne corridor, and it will improve access from the station that currently exists at the airport that is maintained by Caltrans to the airport by allowing passengers to not have to cross the active railroad tracks and Empire Avenue on the way to and from the airport. The large building in the back is the regional Intermodal Transportation Center, which will have a covered walkway to the airport from this rail station. In closing, I want to personally thank all of you for your past and continuing support of LA County's multimodal transportation system. The STIP dollars you invest in our highway and rail projects will be supplemented by a robust program of federal, local, and other state funding to deliver access improvements which will provide mobility for the county while reaching the important air quality and sustainability goals. We look forward to working with you to expeditiously complete the projects we're submitting. I would like to offer my staff's full commitment to ensuring these projects are implemented in the timeliest manner possible. And of course, we're available to answer any questions you may have today about our projects. I thank you.
Commissioner Inman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paul, first of all, on behalf of the California Transportation Commission, all my colleagues here and our staff, and I'll put on my business leader's hat for LA Chamber, I want to thank you for your service to our industry and our sector. As most of you know, Paul is going to retire shortly. I know you're down to probably counting the days now, Paul, but I know it's coming up within the next couple of weeks or so. So anyway, thank you. You've been a great colleague and friend and leader, and it's been great to be standing next to you working, especially when we're in D.C. and it's about 10 degrees and we're calling Art Leahy, who is somewhere having a pina colada on a beach. No, I'm kidding, but that did happen to
Commissioner,
us
I think
once.
that only happened once. But Mr. Chair and Commissioner, I would say that this 40 years I've spent in transportation in Southern California has been an honor and a privilege, and it's been great working with the community here.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burke?
want to commend you for your service. You've made a real contribution. This is not the same transportation system in Metro today that it was when you started. You have really made a lot of changes, and they're changes that have impacted all the people in the region, not just in Los Angeles County. So I'd like to add that. But I would like to ask a couple of questions. What is the reason for the I-5 overrun there?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Burke, it's a rather complex story that Caltrans and we have a lot to say about, and I would suggest that maybe we have a focused session on this at a later commission meeting, because it really is very complicated and not easily explained.
Oh, okay. Yes. I don't mean the 405. That's a complex one. That would be great to have an explanation.
We only do complicated projects.
I know.
Commissioner Burke, the department, along with Metro, is coming in March in Orange County and going to be doing a presentation on specifically that project, and we'll answer those questions.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the possibility of the $30 million to try to balance that out, or?
So the project has baseline agreements where Metro is committed to come forward with as part of the signature with any cost overruns. So that's a discussion that we would have to have with Metro. But
I see.
Yeah. But I'm just saying we're giving you an update on the I-5 project in March.
Okay. So that, I think we all recognize the importance of the project, and
Could
maybe
I
there's
suggest
some other alternatives maybe to work on.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Burke, but I think we need to get into a regular routine of reporting out on these huge projects until we finish them. So we'll look forward to the discussion in March, but I suspect we won't be finished with the project at that time. So given a project of this magnitude, I think we really need to get into some kind of a regular periodic reporting on our status. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Okay. Just one little question about, was any of that related to the utilities issue?
Yes.
Okay.
I would think so, yeah.
Okay, we'd just like to have it in perspective as to what the issues are, that's all. I'm just going to ask one other question. What's the timetable on the West Side subway from La Cienega?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Burke, at this point, we don't have a schedule for that. It's next up. The timetable for the segment from Western to La Cienega we're starting now. The bids have just been received, and we expect to award that contract later this year. And it's probably 5 to 8 years of construction. As soon as we line up the funding necessary for the second segment, we'll move ahead with that.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Paul, thank you very much, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, Laurel, back to you.
Yes, thank you. Next up on the agenda is Tulare County. Tulare is proposing to program more than their target, which would mean some other county would need to program less. They are proposing to program construction for a Route 99 widening project, which includes a substantial contribution from the ITIP. This, however, has not been proposed by the department in the ITIP. It is in there as a first priority for 2016. In addition, there are some proposed T deletions that we haven't reflected in the book, but we will fix that before we do recommendations.
Thank you. Commission and staff, thank you. First of all, we'd just like to thank our district and headquarters and CTC staff for continued partnership. We really enjoy working together. I think there's we had a handout. It's a map of the key 99 projects or our high priority sections. What we're proposing today is just based on our continued partnership to continue to deliver on this corridor. Our board continues with direction that all funding will go on the state highway system, and as you can see, almost all of it's going to goods movement projects. So this is another project critical for goods movement. We're partnering again on 99, and we also have an additional 99 project that potentially, as Laurel had mentioned, could occur if additional funding was available. and we appreciate their recommendation and putting it on a high priority list for waiting. And I'll just note again that you all came to Visalia a couple years ago. You know our moniker, no excuse delivery, and every single project funding you've given to us from Prop 1B, we've delivered. We've delivered on time, and we'll continue to do that in our partnership with Caltrans. And again, thank you for the partnering efforts. We've had fun delivering all these projects, and so we encourage you to approve the ITIP as proposed by Caltrans.
Any questions of Ted? We've had fun watching you. Thank you. Laurel, back to you.
Yes, Commissioners, next up on the agenda is San Diego County. San Diego is proposing to program more than their target, which means some other county must program less. They are proposing to add $60 million in the first 3 years where there is no capacity to existing I-5 projects. They're trading out local committed funds. They are also proposing to delete T-Reserve and program a new bicycle pedestrian project. In addition, Sandag has proposed ITIP funding. A copy of their letter is in your stack of letters that you have.
Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Pleasure to be before you this morning to talk about the Sandag proposal. But in advance of starting, having the opportunity to listen to Orange County and LA, I think one of the synergies here is that you see a lot of focus on Interstate 5 and the Low Sand Corridor. And so that's I think something that we don't always see when we work at it, county by county. But in this case, it caught my attention that the things that Darrell's doing in Orange County complement the things that we're proposing to do in San Diego County, and the things that Paul Taylor talked about at Metro, I believe also complement what's happening on both I-5 and the Low Sand Corridor, two very important corridors. And maybe to deviate a little bit from my script, I provided a handout, but I also wanted to share with the Commission that when we embarked on Interstate 5, we were met by a bill that was introduced by Senator Kehoe. That was a pretty tough bill. The first introduction of that bill, and it was really anti-road. It was all pro-transit, anti-road, and the bill itself, in its first version, if the first poison pill didn't get you, there was like 6 of them, so there's no way you could survive if the first pill didn't get you. The second one, or ultimately the 6th one, would kill you. We worked with Senator Kehoe to try to improve that bill, and we were successful in doing that. And in hindsight, as we look back, the bill, we believe, is actually a good thing for us. So the state has forced, and something that I would maybe encourage the Commission to look at in the future as we looked at these projects, is it forced us to look at this as a comprehensive transportation corridor and not pitting roads versus transit versus pedestrians versus the environment, to figure out how we could bring this collectively and comprehensively into a transportation solution that would address the many issues that we face on a corridor like what we call our North Coast Corridor. So in hindsight, we believe the legislation's been good, but what I might recommend to the Commission, that when we look at these STIP proposals in the future, and I know one of the concerns from the Commission staff is we are proposing to move some money, but it's within this North Coast Corridor in terms of how the state has forced us to look at this, and I don't think it's bad. So I would suggest to the Commission that in the future, we might not only look at an individual project, but also ask ourselves, how does that project tie in to a corridor that moves goods, that moves people, that moves pedestrians, and all the new focus on active transportation. So let me start there, and let me next turn to a one-page handout that we've given you, and first a map that will highlight sort of the projects we're proposing. On the back side, a little bit of the financial information, and also a little bit of the excerpts out of SB 468, the Kehoe bill I was just talking about. And then turning to the map first, in terms of I wanted to use this opportunity to highlight and thank the Commission for our partnership. Our past focus of the last several years, really dating back to 2006 when the state infrastructure bond passed, was to really bring a focus to Interstate 15 and the fact that that was our connection to the rail yards in San Bernardino and the logistics centers of the Inland Empire. And we have been successful in accomplishing all the work on I-15, some of it with our money, some of it with federal money, and a lot of it with money that came from the commission through the state bond. But we've taken the I-15 corridor, which used to be our worst corridor, today is our best performing corridor. And very often when we share about how that corridor is performing, we've had legislators say we just don't believe that the speeds and the reliability of I-15 are what you say they are. Most recently, we turned to the 805 corridor, and that's one that's under construction today, so we're not prepared to declare a total victory on the 805 corridor, but again, that corridor ties in a big area of interest for us is the whole area of goods movement and how we connect the state of California to Mexico, and the fact that Mexico today continues to be California's largest export market, and how do we connect what's happening at our ports in Los Angeles and Long Beach and our ports in Oakland and other areas with the fact that products are moving back and forth most of the time on trucks across the border. So 805 was our second focus under construction right now. And so with that, let me turn to our proposal today. It's to now focus on Interstate 5, which really, and the rail corridor as a complete corridor, which really I think complements what Orange County and Los Angeles are proposing. So in that regard, Sandiag's continuing to implement our long-range plan, our 2050 plan, that includes a sustainable community strategy. And we're in the process and continuing. Not only are we developing an update to that, but we're continuing to litigate the last one. As you'll recall, we're in litigation. We're at the appellate court level. But Sandiag's proposal here focuses on really trying to implement sort of this multimodal piece. So first turning to I-5, what we're proposing is to fund three elements of I-5. You'll see that as number one on the map, where we would fund extending HOV lanes, adding sound walls, replacing bridges. And I think to Commissioner Dunn's question of Orange County, all these will be priced, so the HOV pieces will be managed lanes. Fortunately or unfortunately, the law that we got passed for this requires the revenue that we generate out of this pricing to be used to enhance transit in the corridor. So that's one of the ways that we hope to be able to operate a more robust transit system. But we do plan to price these. And so this would extend those HOV lanes from where they end at a place called Manchester and Encinitas up north through Carlsbad into Oceanside, and really start to close that gap between San Diego and Orange County on Interstate 5. One of the things that's unique about this project in our partnership with Caltrans, we were selected and approved to use CMGC. I would highlight to the Commission that for us at San Diego, this is the second big project. We have a light rail project that we're proceeding under CMGC, and without knowing exactly how much the Commission knows about that, but what it basically means is we're bringing a contractor in at the front end of the process to work with us as we're designing the project, and ultimately that contractor is bound to be the guy that builds it if we can agree to the price. So it's not a total sort of low bid approach, at least not to start out with. We're excited about CMGC because we think it'll implement and streamline our project delivery process in terms of working with Caltrans. I believe it'll cut not just months but years out of that, but I think it'll also give us a more constructible project because you have the contractor that's working with you as you design this. And the traditional way that we've done this under design bid build is we do a complete design and then we kind of throw it out on the market to see what kind of prices we get. Under this process, we got the contractor working with us up front, figure out how to innovate in terms of how we build bridges, figure out how to innovate in terms of how we might stage projects, figure out how to innovate in terms of how we may reduce impacts to the traveling public. So we're pretty excited about this, but that's one of the elements that we think makes I-5 somewhat unique. This is the biggest project that the Coastal Commission has ever undertaken. I see a smile on Commissioner Dunn's face. So, hey, I am Polly Andrew. I am very optimistic here. We've established a pretty good relationship with the Coastal Commission. The Kehoe bill helped us because it established a process that we're going to follow. We're using what's known as a public works plan. And so we hope to be in front of that commission in either June or August of this year to hopefully get a coastal permit, because what we're proposing here is a small piece of about a $6 billion investment for both rail, pedestrians, and highway pieces that we will have to do over a multi-decade process. It's not going to all happen on day one. And the idea of this public works plan is it's like the general plan of a city. This would be the general plan as to how we proceed and avoid us having to start the coastal permit process anew every time we have a different phase of a project. So that's kind of what we're proposing to do on the I-5 piece. One other piece to sort of stay fair and balanced in this world where we're under a lot of pressure to not just look at road improvements, but what are we doing with active transportation piece. So the next piece is we're proposing, as you see there on Project 2, to fund an inland rail trail. This will provide a bike and ped trail that runs parallel to a light rail and 78, State Route 78, which that whole 78 corridor is one of the fastest growing corridors in the San Diego region. And so this really provides San Diegans another alternative to driving or riding public transit, but also biking and walking to work. So those are the pieces. I wanted to highlight what's shown there in purple are a little over a dozen different rail projects. And the Losan Rail Corridor, the second busiest rail corridor in the country, continues to be, we think, a very important asset to the San Diego region and to the state of California. And our board has agreed to borrow up to about $500 million, and we're making progress on trying to get many of those projects shovel ready. If you looked at the total value of those projects, they're somewhere between $800 million to $1 billion worth of investment. We believe that we'll have about half of that when they get ready to be funded. And so I wanted to highlight, so in terms of the concern about us moving money, the local money had normally programmed for I-5, we are proposing to move some of that to this rail corridor because of project timing. One of the good things in the Kehoe bill, I-5 goes over about a half dozen pretty sensitive lagoons. And so we made a commitment that when we're going over a lagoon, we not only widen the highway project, but we also widen the rail line so that the idea is that we only have one impact to the lagoon, get in, get out, get it done, and we're not back. So if I can draw your attention to the second sheet of our handout here. So the STIP investment will leverage about another $250 million of local funds, primarily on the Interstate 5 corridor, but it'll also leverage another $500 million in some of the Losan pieces because we're forced by law, and in hindsight I would argue a good thing for us, to look at that corridor comprehensively, not rail versus highway versus pedestrian, but all as a comprehensive plan. So, and then in closing, the last two things, and I would share that we're a little bit frustrated in sort of the Caltrans process in figuring out how they came up with their ITIP, and we're suggesting that at least some consideration, if not today, but in the future, be given to a couple of projects that we think advance the closure of improving I-5 between San Diego and Orange County, and might also help us address the connections down at the border, in that we've been successful in getting 905 implemented, and we got SR 11 under construction, but now how do we connect SR 11 and 905 and 125 to give us better access to move goods and services into Mexico? So those are two ITIP projects that are not on the Caltrans list. I was pleased to hear Rachel say that there's going to be a new process that will look at those, but I think it would be helpful, and we recognize that way many more projects than there are dollars, but I think it would be helpful in an era of openness and transparency that we understand how they came to that decision and why these are the projects that are of most value. We would like to see more in the rail area. We believe the Losan corridor is one of those that needs help, and the ITIP may be one of the ways in the future to help us make the improvements that we need, again, on the second busiest rail corridor in the country. So with that, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, let me close here by, again, thanking you for your partnership. And at this point, I'd be glad to try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Gary. Commissioner Madaffer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission, and thank you, Gary, for your report. Just kind of adding on to the low sand corridor, when you look at what ITIP, the purpose is to improve state highways, intercity passenger rail, and the interregional movement of people. There's 4 projects that Caltrans identified, and goods. Thank you, Commissioner Inman. And you and I have talked about that, and I am all for improving the low sand corridor. And in fact, that's really what my comments are, is to add on to what Gary was just talking about. There's 4 small rail projects that qualify for this round of funding, but they're currently excluded. And these 4 are all double tracking projects that would increase safety, speed, and reliability of rail. And I know Caltrans points out in the ITIP the need for rail succinctly by saying that it provides a safe, efficient, and cost-effective alternative to automobile and air travel. And I just want to put into the record what those 4 projects are, and I would like to at some point have some further discussion on them. And these are, again, all double track. It's Eastbrook to Shell double track. It's $3 million. San Diego double track and bridge replacement, $4 million. Carlsbad Village double track, $2 million. And Bataquitas Lagoon double track, $10 million. And those are not included, but they're crucial to improving goods movement, because double tracking on the low sand corridor will eventually cause passenger and goods to be able to move a lot more efficiently. And I think when you point out SB 468, as Gary did on this pie chart, this is state law, and we have to follow this. And this state law talks about having to blend not just highway, but also rail and bus and pedestrian and bicycle all at the same time on this corridor. And I just think it's really important that these things be looked at a little bit closer. Thank you.
Commissioner Gardino?
Thank you, Chairman Gilmetti. Gary, thank you. It's always a pleasure to hear your presentations, and you do great work in San Diego. 2 quick questions. One, the most quick. That looks like an incredibly long inland rail trail. What is the approximate length of that?
About 27 miles. We've built the first third. This investment will focus sort of in the middle third. Mm-hmm. And then we got the last third. And again, we're trying to reduce the cost by building it within the railroad right away. That hasn't always been the easiest with our railroad partners, in terms of the idea that we're going to have to share the real estate that we own together here. But we have been successful, and we've got about a third of it built. One thing I didn't highlight to the Commission that I probably should have is as we look to expand our active transportation piece, our board has approved up to $200 million that we would leverage. By that we mean borrow against sales tax money to advance some of the active transportation. And we've got a region-wide bicycle ped network that we've adopted, that the board's adopted. Total implementation cost about $500 million. And so we're hoping that the $200 million we bring to the table, we will be able to go through, some of the active transportation funds at the state level, but also at the federal level to hopefully leverage those. But we believe we have a comprehensive plan that covers the entire county that would allow another mode of transportation. I would also share with you, Commissioner Gardino, that we've been working pretty closely with the county health department. And one of the things that excites us, you'd have probably never heard that from a guy like me 5 years ago, but public health is a concern for us in San Diego. We know that obesity is, leading to heart troubles and leading to, cardiac troubles and other issues that end up costing society more in the long run. And so we're looking at how we can build active transportation in these pieces that will not only allow San Diegans more choices in terms of how they get from point A to point B, but hopefully also allow us to be healthier and reduce some of the obesity rates that we see in our county.
Gary, thank you. The second question was, I asked a similar question earlier. Congratulations. It looks like the next Speaker of the State Assembly hails from San Diego. As you speak to your delegation, do you impress upon them the need for more transportation funds? Can you share anything with us?
Well, I would just say that we were bold enough that the minute we heard that there were surpluses and people were starting to line themselves around the Capitol, not only were we talking to our delegation, we were also talking to the governor's office about the fact that, and I share, I think, something that Gerald Johnson brought up, that some of our projects, low sand double tracking projects, are one-time costs that I would argue will yield a big return to the state of California, not just in terms of construction jobs, but in terms of our ability to compete on the global market. And that if there was going to be surplus, would those be the places to spend the dollars? Now, we got a pushback that we needed to pay back debt, and I think it's hard to argue against that. You probably ought to pay off your credit card before you pull out a new credit card. But we have been advocating with our legislative delegation about how some of, particularly the goods movement projects and a lot of the rail projects that we're trying to get ready, how those would be in line with SB 375, because we would also argue that sometimes the goals that you get from the state don't always match their budget priorities. So if we are going to try to match those, we believe this is an opportunity. We've had those conversations with the speaker to come, Tony Atkins, but we've also reached out to all our congressional delegation and legislative delegation to talk about these infrastructure needs that we have and how we desperately need dollars to make them happen. And the fact that I would share with this commission that I think we ought to be worried 5 years in advance because all of us are doing the same thing with our sales tax measure. We're bonding against it, so we're borrowing. So sooner or later, we're going to have to keep paying the debt. You guys are out of bond dollars, and I mean, I think Prop 1B was a great thing when it passed in 2006, but we're good at spending money, so it's supposed to be a 10-year bond. We're pretty much spent out. There's nothing happening at the federal government. So if we don't figure this out, I would argue in 5 years, we're not going to have very much to spend on this stuff because we're either going to be paying debt or no money coming from the state or the federal government. So we're out beating the drums that we've got all these needs, and we got to sort of figure out whether it's tolling or pricing, however we want to do it. We've got to figure out how we're going to pay for this stuff if we really want to keep our economy vibrant.
Gary, thank you.
Commissioner Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gary, sensitive to the time, can you give us, and I'm so happy that you're here, thank you for your presentation, can you give us a quick update on the litigation on the RTP?
Well, we're all short and brief. We're all lawyered up, briefed up, and ready, waiting for a court date from the appellate court. And so that's kind of where we stand.
Thank you. We're watching it closely.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, guys.
Laurel, back to you.
Yes, Commissioners, next on the agenda is Riverside County. Riverside County is proposing to program less than their target. However, they are proposing over $57 million in new programming in the first 2 years where there is no capacity. Portion of this is for a cost increase on a project where they are proposing to advance it to 1415.
Shirley.
Good morning, Commissioners. I don't have a presentation or any slides or anything on our proposal. It's not complicated. We do have a couple projects that are a little bit atypical as we've looked at past STIP cycles, and we're very excited about them. You may recall at the December CTC meeting, Tom Kirk, the Executive Director of the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, provided you a very enlightening presentation on a project called CV Link. It's a bicycle, pedestrian, and low-speed electric vehicle path following the Whitewater River through the heart of Coachella Valley. The path will extend from Palm Springs to Coachella, with future connections to Desert Hot Springs and the Salton Sea. The other project we have is a Bee Canyon Wildlife Crossing Corridor, which is part of the Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan administered by the Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority. This project will provide safe movement of animals as a wildlife linkage across State Route 91 and is an example of meeting transportation goals and the Sustainable Communities Strategy goal as it protects resource areas such as natural habitats. a couple other projects, joint projects with the department. We have the 60 truck climbing lane project. This is through what we call the Badlands area on State Route 60, which is an area in between the city of Moreno Valley and Banning and Beaumont. So this truck climbing lane will definitely help with trucks that definitely hold up vehicles and prevents some safe movements in that area. So therefore, we have some shop funding that Caltrans has put on the project, and we're very looking much forward to getting this project done. It's a project that's been identified in our Measure A plan for a while. We also have this 215 to I-15 southbound connector project, shoulder improvements as well. This is also a joint project with the department. We are requesting advancing some funds, especially for our I-10 Jefferson interchange project. This project is ready to go, and therefore that's why we are trying to stick to the schedule and asking the Commission if we can advance some fundings for that project. Very important project. That's all I have for today. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Shirley. Any questions of Shirley? Thank you very much.
Not complicated.
No, and very brief. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, next up is Inyo County. Inyo County is proposing to program more than their maximum target, which means some other county must program less. The new programming is primarily for the Route 395 Olancho-Cartago Expressway. This project is jointly funded with Kern, Mono, and ITIP shares. Inyo is also proposing to delay projects that are programmed in current year, which is not consistent with STIP guidelines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Clint Quilter, Executive Director of Inyo County LTC. As noted, ours is really, really simple and consists of primarily one project, which essentially completes the 395 corridor as a 4-lane through Inyo County. As you all know, it's a 395 is a high-emphasis interregional focus route and part of the interregional road system. It's vital to the economy of the Eastern Sierra region as one of the 4 major north-south corridors in the state. This section of highway has recurrent congestion, and the fatal accident rate is higher than the statewide average for similar facilities. Upgrading from the 2-lane to 4 lanes would substantially reduce head-on collisions and is expected to reduce fatalities by 75%. US 395 provides the only major north-south truck route on the eastern side of California, which connects the ports of Southern California to distribution and warehousing centers in northern Nevada. And being fairly new to Inyo County, I would like to introduce Doug Thompson, who's the chair of the Inyo County Local Transportation Commission, to kind of speak to Inyo County's commitment to this corridor, 395 and 14 in general.
My name is Doug Thompson, Local Transportation Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioners, for letting us speak today. I actually consider 395 what I call it the Three Flags Highway. It's an old existing highway that goes from the Mexican border all the way up to Canada. It's one of the areas where we have heavy load traffic, where they can't move a large piece of equipment up and down Highway 99 or Highway 101. So we have a service to the Transportation Commission that way. We have a 1999 we signed a 3-county contract with an MOU with Kern County Council of Governments and Mono County. So this project fits in with the Regional Transportation Plan where we partnered over the years to fund these developments. Our last section in Inyo County is this Olancho-Cartago project. Also, we have funding on reserve where we've actually programmed this for the last 3 cycles. We have a large land area, largest national park in the lower United States. We have a large tourist consistent traffic in the area. So we have a very limited local population, but we have a large transit population that travels through. So what we're doing is looking at the next 50, 7,500 years to provide access to those recreational areas and the goods and movement service. There's a large warehouse project in Nevada. I think it's the largest in the United States. But also at the same time, the truck traffic can come up 395 and they can go over to 80 on the Sacramento. So it's an alternate route that provides access to the transportation of goods through the back part of California. We have bicycles that travel the area, but you know what? We're limited. We have such a remote rural area, so it's an attraction to international bike recreationists. And so I think you put it all together, we have ability to finish this one short section, and then we can partner with Inyo and Mono Kern to do the 14th section that brings that down into the LA Basin. So it would give us a 4-lane project all the way from the LA Basin up basically to past Mammoth. If you have any questions, I sure appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Back to you, Laurel. Thank you, Doug.
Commissioners, next is Ventura County. They're proposing to program less than their target with 3 new projects, and they are deleting their T reserve. They're resulting in no new net programming in the first 3 years.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Darren Kettle. I'm the Executive Director with the Ventura County Transportation Commission. I'm here today to speak in support of our proposed Regional Transportation Improvement Program. Last year, VCTC completed its first ever countywide comprehensive transportation plan, which has really set the direction for this proposed program. The major elements of this proposal include the project approval and environmental documents for the 101 and 118 freeways through Ventura County. We respectfully request that you approve our recommendation to the program, these projects in the year 2018. We are also requesting funding for an environmental mitigation project for the completed Route 101 bridge over the Santa Clara River between the cities of Ventura and Oxnard. We would request that you approve that programming for that project in 2016. As many of you may know, US 101 is Main Street, Ventura County, and was identified in our comprehensive transportation plan as a high priority corridor due to its key location and significant congestion. VCTC recommends the programming of $14 million for the project approval and environmental document phase to consider widening alternatives such as high occupancy vehicle lanes. State Route 118 provides significant regional connections between the 101 and Interstate 5 freeways. The first phase of State Route 118 was widened and completed in 2011. VCTC is requesting $3 million for the PAED phase now, which will then extend from the 118 from Topo Canyon Road in Simi Valley to Los Angeles Avenue in Moore Park, a stretch of about 7 or 8 miles. Both US 101 and State Route 118 are identified as 2014 STIP cycle state highway needs by Caltrans, and both will contribute to the SCAG Regional Transportation Plan and sustainable community strategies for improved safety, mobility, and providing major economic benefit. The VCTC Comprehensive Transportation Plan has identified future federal and STIP funds for regional highway projects. In the next STIP cycle, we anticipate having about $60 million in STIP and regional transportation funds for these projects to start the construction portion of these phases. We talked a little bit earlier about somewhat of the news that can be a bit depressing. Unfortunately, in our proposal, we don't bring to you projects that are going to construction, and that is a challenge that counties such as Ventura County, without the local sales tax measure for transportation, all have to wrestle with that issue. Furthermore, VCTC is now conducting an economic feasibility study of high occupancy toll lanes on the US 101, with the intent of possibly increasing the funds for for highway improvements, mainly on the 101 corridor, recognizing its role for Ventura County and our economic environment. The Route 101 Santa Clara River Bridge was constructed by Caltrans in 2002 through 2006. The permits that were approved for that required the creation of 10 acres of wetlands and 20 acres of enhanced riparian habitat as mitigation. We have, in partnership with Caltrans, have identified a suitable location now. VCTC is requesting your approval of about nearly $1.9 million in fiscal year 2015-16 in order to carry out the mitigation work that is required. Thank you again for the opportunity to very, very, very briefly share our program with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Darren. Any questions? Thank you very much. Back to you, Laurel.
Commissioners, next up is Kern County. Kern is requesting to program more than their maximum target, which means some other county must program less. They are proposing to increase programming for the West Side Parkway Connector by $49 million to replace local committed funds. And this increase is proposed in the first 3 years of the STIP period where there is no capacity. In addition, they're proposing to add funds to the shared Alancho-Cartago project. They are also proposing a new project, the truck climbing lanes, some of which was supposed to be funded by the department. That funding has not yet been identified.
Good morning, Chair Galmetti and Commissioners. Thank you. This morning, I am going to focus on our number one project, the State Route 58 connector. As you know, this is a very large project, and today I wanted to let you know that the Thomas Road Improvement Program is a unique program that combined Caltrans, the City of Bakersfield, County of Kern, and Kern Council of Governments as partners to deliver this highway project on State Route 58. I do send my regrets from Aaron Hakimi, my executive director. He is a colonel in the Army Reserve and is on mandatory duty, so he should be in Washington, D.C. by now. But with us this morning, we have the Honorable William Thomas to bring more information to you about the Centennial Corridor project. So if you will, thank you. Also here today to help us out is Ted Wright, from the City of Bakersfield, Program Manager for the TRIP program. So.
Good morning. Good to be in front of you again, and I just have to tell you how exciting 2013 was for us, and how exciting 2014 is going to be for us. I came to Bakersfield in 1965, and the city limit sign said 60,000 people. Today, the city of Bakersfield is one of the 10 largest cities in California. In 2013, we cut a ribbon on a 5-mile stretch of freeway. The first time in 37 years. It's only 5 miles. We got to add 3 more. Caltrans in the city was very cooperative. Caltrans is busy. If you want to see people smiling when they go by the construction zones, come to Bakersfield. The 99 Bond Act is adding an extra road north and south through the center of Bakersfield. We're adding extra lanes on 58 where 58 dead ends into 99. But most importantly, next week the city of Bakersfield will approve the EIR for the 24th Street project. That's actually Highway 178 that goes through the center of Bakersfield. They're active on the east side of town, as was indicated earlier on priorities, turning a 2-lane state highway into a 4-lane state highway. But the most exciting thing is that by the time you file your taxes this year, we will have approved the EIR on what we call the Centennial Corridor. And I apologize because it's a big thing for us. We actually end the 58 dead end. And the Thomas Road, they were kind enough to call it, the Thomas Road Improvement Act is unique. It was created in '06 when I happened to be chairman of the Ways and Means Committee and was able to influence the conference to provide about $726 million of federal money for an interstate, interregional connector, finally moving between 99, I-5, and 101. It's unique because it combines the federal, or the state, the Caltrans money, the county money, the city money, and today we're talking about the Kern COG money. When the EIR is improved, the money we're asking for, in the way in which we're asking it, is for construction on what we call the Centennial Corridor. That will involve $121 million of federal money, $60 million of county money, $163 million of city money focused on construction. What we're asking is that in the 16-17 year, KernCog be given $49 million. They will not ask for more money after that, but creating the 49 and 16-17 fills the pie. I didn't mention any Caltrans money in this project because Caltrans is finally connecting that two-lane stretch of 58 over in eastern Kern County so that 15 and 40 is a freeway, and we will begin accommodating all those people on 58 because the federal government, after the EIR qualifies, in the E76 money will be providing about $316 million for right-of-way access and utility shifting. So when you look at that pie, it really is unique, and it shows the cooperative effort. We are actively building freeways for the first time in almost 40 years. So the simple request is put $49 million together for 16-17, which will be KernCog's amount. It is their number one priority, and in an east-west county, with the east being 90 miles away, for this to be KernCog's number one priority, unanimously supported by all of the cities, it's a big deal for us, and I think it's a big deal for them. So that's the request. But if you want to see people happy, driving slowly in construction areas, come up to Bakersfield.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions? Commissioner Gardino.
Thank you, Chairman. Congressman, it's great to see you again. Thanks for working so hard for decades to make all this happen. You have a better sense of politics and policy, certainly, than I will ever have. Do you get a sense that your delegation in the Central Valley to Sacramento understands that California is crumbling and we need to invest more? Is there any sense that you get from your local delegation in the legislature that they might be willing to start doing something about it?
Talk is cheap, and there's a lot of talking. I have tried to impress upon them, well, frankly, how lucky we are, because 58 dead-ended into 99, and we went from 60,000 to over 350,000, and we never built any freeways. We're doing that now. It's a window of opportunity. But I will tell you, if you don't tell anyone else, I'm going to really push for the local half-cent sales tax because we're not getting any more big chunks of money. And what scares me the most, frankly, having come down here over I-5 again, is building infrastructure is one thing, but not just the Central Valley, not just California, but nationally. Once you start that infrastructure, you have to commit to the maintenance of that infrastructure. And that is an ongoing project. We're just lucky that we're actually turning dirt into concrete and asphalt. But there has to be an ongoing commitment, and it has to be a major local commitment to assist as best they can through every means possible. But I will readily tell you, people have said, oh, gee, Val, we wish you were back there. You made all these deals. Let me tell you, I couldn't put packages together with the way in which Congress is now operating. And I'm working as hard as I can to get people to understand that agree on what you can agree on today, move forward, and then take a look when and if other changes might be made. It's not just in highway funding, it's in immigration, it's in a number of other areas. Incremental accommodation and compromise is who we are. And we're not doing that. We're not doing it anywhere. So my plea to you is let Kern Cog, I'll bring it back, let Kern Cog have $49 million. They won't, I promise you, they won't ask, as we used to say, I'm asking you for this, and if you have any problems, I'm not hard to find. And they won't ask for any more money, because that's their portion of the pie.
Commissioner Medaffer?
Thank you very much, Chair Gilmetti. And Congressman, thank you very much for your heartfelt comments. And I just have to say how much I was impressed by this State Route 52 Centennial Corridor. And just as you indicated, the cost benefit of 6.5 calculated by Caltrans for this project, and a $49 million STIP request leveraging $344 million. You don't see them that way. And I just really applaud you for your heartfelt comments on it.
It was not a hard sell to my colleagues in Congress when I explained to them 58 is the primary Central California east-west interstate connector. And by the way, it dead ends into 99.
It's crazy. Thank you.
Oh, and just let me add, because it's partly personal as well, the money that we were able to bring and the matching efforts of Caltrans and others in turning 46 into a highway instead of Blood Alley is tremendously appreciated. Because we're an east-west county in a north-south state. And that was our primary east-west highway, 2 lanes. It's now 4, and we're going to connect 58 through the corridor to the West Side Parkway and get them on the other side of Bakersfield, heading for 5 and 101. If you just reprogram, have I said this? The $49 million for 16-17. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laurel, back to you.
Yes, Commissioners, next on the agenda is Mono County. Mono County is proposing to program less than their target. The bulk of this new programming is for the shared Route 395 Olancha-Cartago project. They're also proposing 6 new highway and local road projects, with the bulk of the new programming in the last 2 years of the STIP period.
Good morning, Chairman, Committee, and Commissioners and staff. Thank you. We'd like to go on to continue to support our MOU projects that we started with Kern Cog and Inyo County since 1999. The Olancha-Cartago project will do that. It will give us a 4-lane facility from Tioga Pass, State Route 120, which is in the middle of Mono County, Lee Vining, all the way to the northern terminus of, southern terminus of State Route 14 and 395. So from a regional level, it's a big project for us. It's only 10% for us, but it takes up a big chunk of our TIP dollars. At the local level, we have a couple other projects. We have some traditional rehab projects. We've been really successful in getting federal land access grants or FLAP grants through FHWA. We have another project that gets us into Convict Lake area, an important recreational corridor in Mono County. We're asking for state-only funds this coming fiscal year so we can meet our match requirements, and some traditional replacement vehicles. And that's kind of the bulk of our RTIP. I'd happy to answer any questions. We had a town council member Matthew Lehman, could not attend today, and Peter Bernasconi with the town of Mammoth Lakes is here if you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Laurel, back to you.
Yes, Commissioners, Fresno County is next on the agenda. They are proposing only to delete T reserve and add PPM. The PPM is not reflected in the hearing book by our mistake, but we'll fix that prior to the staff recommendations. They are basically leaving a large unprogrammed balance.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Gilmetti and Commissioners. My name is Tony Bourne, the Executive Director of the Fresno Council of Governments. I'm here today to advocate for the RTIPs that we've submitted. I think you'll find it's relatively simple compared to all the other ones that you've been dealing with. The project that I'm advocating for, which is the centerpiece of our TIP submittal, is the State Route 180 East project from Smith to Frankwood. It's about a 4-mile project converting a 2-lane expressway to a 4-lane divided expressway. Its purpose is to facilitate the movement of agricultural goods from farm to market on the east side of Fresno County, and also to improve access to Sequoia National Park. With regards to funding, the project is a $90 million project, with $57 million of that coming from the STIP, and Fresno County's Measure C providing the other $33 million. It's scheduled in the STIP for delivery in 2016. However, we anticipate having the ability to deliver it in 2015-16 should the opportunity present itself. So I just want to put that out there. And lastly, in closing, I just wanted to say a big thank you. Since the passage of Fresno County's Measure C program in 1986, in the intervening 27 years, we've worked closely with the CTC Commission, the CTC staff, Caltrans, our Fresno County Transportation Authority, to deliver over $1 billion in transportation projects in Fresno County. Our moniker has been promises made, promises kept, and because we've been able to deliver those projects, when we went to the voters in 2006, we were able to get 78% support for our measure. So we're very proud of the work that we've done. Couldn't have done it without working in tandem with all of you folks, so I wanted to give a big thank you to Andre and to the Commission. So that wraps it up. Thank you.
Great job, Tony. Any questions? Thank you very much. Laurel, back to you.
Yes, Commissioners, next is Imperial County. Imperial is proposing to program more than their maximum target, which means some other county must program less. They are requesting to advance some funding for the Imperial Avenue Interchange project to 2014-15 and then program construction in 17-18.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners and Deputy Secretary Annis. Good morning or good afternoon. Just a little update on previous projects that you have approved and helped us with. Our last leg of the 78 Brawley Bypass has been open for over a year now, and it's successfully operating. It got about 3,000 trucks and other interregional traffic out of the city of Brawley's Main Street. So we're very happy about that project. And in 2012, you approved the I-8 Dogwood Overcrossing project, and recent action last week that will be going to construction in June of this year. And so we're very happy about that and the effort that Caltrans has undergone with that. As you know, my name is Mark Baza, Executive Director of Imperial County Transportation Commission. My board and myself thank you for your consideration of Imperial County's priority projects for the 2014 STIP. Our 2014 STIP recommendations include STIP advance of $14.6 million to reconstruct the I-8 Imperial Avenue interchange in the city of El Centro. This is the first STIP advance for Imperial County in recent times that I'm aware of. The project was originally programmed in 2008 STIP, but was removed by ICTC from the 2010 STIP due to lack of STIP revenue at that time. The design funds were reprogrammed in the 2012 STIP, and the recommendation to add the construction funds in this 2014 STIP would fully fund the project. Caltrans District 11 and ICTC have worked in partnership over the years to bring the project back to the STIP, and we are committed to deliver the project in FY 17 and 18 as proposed in the RTIP. As illustrated in the flyer, the project will provide a new connection south of the freeway, as illustrated, that we currently don't have access. And the city of El Centro is planning to complete that road construction immediately following the completion of the interchange. That interchange has been our only current option the only other option for us is to use other overcrossings and interchanges surrounding the area. Traffic has to travel in a circuitous fashion to access the community on the south side of the freeway. Page 2 of the flyer summarizes the project benefits that stem from a reduction in vehicle miles traveled and the new design of the interchange. The benefits include travel time savings of $63 million over 20 years and over $4 million in emission cost savings over the same period. The remainder of Imperial County's 2014 STIP proposal continues the practice of using planning, programming, and monitoring funds within the 5% limitation and removes all TE reserves from the STIP per the STIP guidelines. This concludes my presentation, and we thank you in advance for your consideration of approval, and I open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mark. Commissioner Inman?
Oh, Mark, I just want to use this opportunity to thank you for your service to SCAG, too, and your leadership role there. Mark has been a very active partner for all of us, and we do truly appreciate your leadership.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions? Mark, thank you very much. I think that concludes all the presentations. So at this point, we'll open up the meeting to public comments, and so far I have three scheduled speakers. The first one will be Danielle Hess, followed by Patricia Ochoa. They didn't ask to speak.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission, and staff. My name is Danielle Hesse, and I'm with the Natural Resources Defense Council. I'm here to provide some brief comments on the ITIP. Last week, the State Transportation Agency released an external review of Caltrans. In releasing the report, Transportation Secretary Brian Kelly said, "Climate change puts new demands on the state transportation system. More transportation choices, efficient land use, highway preservation, sustainable movement of people and freight. These are now the order of the day." There are a number of ongoing statewide transportation planning processes that are reflecting this outlook, striving to give California a transportation system that balances economic productivity, safety, convenience, and the environment. Nevertheless, the ITIP does not appear to be in step with this new perspective. It remains focused on capacity expansion, preserving level of service, and facilitating the physical growth of California. It makes no mention of the environment, sustainability goals, or how the ITIP can help California meet its greenhouse gas reduction goals. We'd recommend the adoption of performance metrics in the ITIP that fall more in line with California's commitment to more sustainable transportation and land use, as well as a brief discussion in the ITIP of how the plan impacts AB 32, SB 375, and our other environmental policies. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Danielle. The next speaker is Patricia Ochoa, followed by Jessica Meany.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Patty Ochoa. I'm with Coalition for Clean Air. We're a statewide air quality advocacy organization. So the investments that are made in our transportation today will affect generations to come. Therefore, it's important that any investment made today aligns with California's commitment to sustainability and a cleaner and sustainable freight network. We work with many communities that are impacted by the region's Good Movement Network, not just necessarily from an air quality point of view, but also from the infrastructure that is built in the middle of these communities. So sometimes when we look at goods movement, we'll only consider the mobility of the goods, but we really don't take into account what does that mean to the rest of the communities. This is a concern in terms for the LA County. Because our cargo projections for the Southern California region estimate that the cargo traffic will triple in the next 20 years. To 40 million TEUs. To address this increase in cargo, many of the goods movement transportation plans being put forward call for widening up our highway systems to accommodate this growth. And we don't necessarily agree with this approach on its own because we think it's not sustainable, and it doesn't align with the state's goals of getting 1.5 million zero-emission vehicles on the road by 2025, or does it align with a lot of our SB 375 goals and climate change goals as well. So we recommend for the CTC to encourage general goods movement projects to align with the state's sustainability goals and to make sure the investments that are put forward now are sustainable and help the region meet its air quality goals beyond just a mobility measure. Though it's not included on the list, one of the projects in this region that's a huge goods movement corridor project is the I-710 Corridor South project. It's about an 18 million expansion project that's going to be going from the ports all the way up to the 60 interchange. This project right now, it's still in the draft EIR process. It's being recirculated, but this project has a potential to really integrate a zero-emission freight sustainability mission as part of the project, and it would also allow it not compete with our goods movement goals of just getting, to more economic prosperity. So that we think that this project is an opportunity to integrate the system's vision of zero emission sustainable freight vision, and we would like the CTC to guide Caltrans so this vision is fully embedded in the I-710 corridor project and also many of the general goods movement projects being proposed today. Furthermore, we think that the CTC should take a more active role in ensuring the county projects help achieve regional and state priorities, particularly priorities that are that align with our sustainable and climate change goals, and that there's performance measures that are adopted that really align with this. Secondly, I'd just like to say it was refreshing to hear Gary speak on how San Diego is really looking at their goods movement and just in general their whole transportation system. And I think that's something refreshing for this conversation that goes beyond just widening our highways. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Any questions? The next speaker is Jessica Meany. That's it.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jessica Meany. I'm the Southern California Policy Director for the Safe Routes to School National Partnership. I want to thank the CTC for all its hard work over the past several years on developing our active transportation program. Mitch Weiss has been a great partner to work with, and we're excited to see this call for projects roll out in March. I myself focused my work here in Los Angeles County on transportation finance. And one of the things I want to just echo in some of the commenters I've heard is that this is a great opportunity, a great source of funding to make sure that we're lining up with our state goals and priorities. I think performance metrics offer a great way to do that. How our project lists here in Los Angeles County and Southern California and some of the other counties we heard help us achieve our sustainability, our SESs, our sustainable I can't even remember how to say it. Our SES strategies is critical. We did tremendous work here at SCAG in 2012 with the RTP, an enormous outpouring, I think, for active transportation and public health. And the time is to see those goals now transition into project lists. I've been doing a lot of work on research on the economic benefits of complete streets and gathering with partners and business leaders throughout Los Angeles County to talk about how this can benefit all travelers in all modes, particularly moved as well by Executive Director Gary Gallegos from San Diego, who really talks about how these corridors can plan for all of us and it's not one against another. Los Angeles County is developing a complete streets policy this spring. I think it's an exciting opportunity to work together among all transportation goals. Just some background on some of the issues that concern me here in Los Angeles County. Over 20% of our trips are made on foot or bike. Over 35% of our students here in LA County walk to school. 38% of our roadway fatalities in this county are people out walking and biking. But our last long-range transportation plan allocated 1% to these modes. We need financial investments for all these modes to make travelers safe so we can improve our first mile, last mile, complete streets, and allow employees to get to work regularly and with consistency, and all the state and regional goals we have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jessica. I think that's the last speaker we have. Did anyone from the Commission? Commissioner Inman?
I just have some general questions, and a couple of them. One, wherever we have rail car improvements, can we really make sure that they're user-friendly? Because I know that in order for us to be successful, we need to have vehicles that accommodate the way we live today. And so I'm going to be a long-term champion for looking around at the size of strollers and everything else we pack around when we try to not only get ourselves around but our families. So if we can just, I don't know what kind of expertise we have, but it seems to me that we often have a disconnect between what a new rail car might look like and how people live their lives. And so that was just a general comment. I know we had some rail car orders on there. A question on landscaping. We had a number of items that included landscaping enhancement programs, and our governor has declared a drought for all of us. So along the lines of the last comments, I think it's really important for us. You know, it may be that you're going to do a landscaping enhancement project that actually reduces our water consumption. But if it's going to be a net drain on water or increase our water usage, we've got to be very careful that we are cognizant of the environment that we're in right now in terms of a water supply. And last, before I commit, I just want to thank our 3-county MOU that's celebrating its 15-year anniversary, and it'd make our job a lot easier if we had more of those collaborative efforts. So hats off to Kern and Inyo and Mono County. We appreciate you all putting your heads together and working together.
I'll conclude. I'd just like to make a comment with regard to Gary's presentation and commend him for trying to do both transit and roads at the same time. But having said that, those tract improvements come from gas tax dollars. And if we're going to be driving less and collecting less, we have to find an alternate way of supporting these transit projects, which I think are very important for the state. But we have a diminishing revenue source in order to do that. So I would suggest that these groups who are promoting that need to get behind their legislatures and figure out another way or an alternative way to fund those improvements, because we're sitting up here with limited funds to do almost anything, whether it's roads or transit. So we need more of your help in that direction to increase the revenue source so we can do all those things. So having said that, and hearing no other comments, Brian, meeting adjourned.